Live. What's going on, guys? John is back for tomorrow's transfers today. The place to find out what's going on in the world of Manchester United transfers. We're always here 11 p.m. BST, 6 p.m. EST if you guys are tuning in from the eastern coast of the United States, because that's where I am. What's going on, guys? John here. We are going to be smashing through the transfer news, tearing up the BS, the bollocks to pieces, and finding out the truth in a pile of lies. What's going on? Let's get in the comments. Yes, that's what I'm talking about, guys. Let's get in there. All right, enough chatting about BS. Let's get straight to talking about the topics of today. The first time we're going to speak about Milinkovic-Savic a little bit before moving on to Perisic, and then wrapping up the stories with Anthony Martial and Harry Maguire. So let's go jump straight into the first news today with Milinkovic-Savic. The Independent are stating that Chelsea is ready to beat rivals to Sergei Milinkovic-Savic. Now, Sergei Milinkovic-Savic is a name that's been being dropped left, right, center, everywhere. He's been linked to Madrid, United, and then Chelsea, and then Barcelona, just everywhere. Every single damn name in the world has been linked with Sergei Milinkovic-Savic. Now, it's a little bit difficult for me to decide exactly what I think about wanting somebody like Sergei Milinkovic-Savic, but I don't know. I just don't. It feels like one of those sagas that's constantly being dragged on, where we're linked with. It's like a Thiago or like a Fabregas back in the Moyes days, or even like almost like a Schneider feel to it, where we're just constantly talking about the same guy before he leaves to somewhere else. And I don't even need to care. I don't even need to take a look at who's citing it, who's linking it, whatever, because I think at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. I just don't think that Manchester United will be signing somebody like Sergei Milinkovic-Savic. Although he is a fantastic asset and I would love to have him in the squad, I just don't see it happening. I just don't see Manchester United going for somebody like him. Just want to jump into the comments for a hot second here. Let's see who's talking about here. Yes, the closet is stacked. Anybody talking about Sergei Milinkovic-Savic here? Anybody talking to me about Sergei Milinkovic-Savic? Ashley Gary says, Milinkovic-Savic would be an amazing signing, but we have way too many midfielders in the middle now. I'm not sure about way too many midfielders. Of course, you guys still have to keep in mind that Jose Mourinho didn't really fancy somebody like Ander Herrera and even Juan Mata, for that matter, for many parts of his 2 years that he's been at Manchester United. So, there were times where we kind of thought, we were going to probably ship off Ander Herrera and things like to another club and things like that. So I think we're still one signing short of having a complete midfield, but as Ashley mentioned there, signing somebody like Milinkovic-Savic would always be a benefit and asset to the squad. And Statman Dave always mentions that he is the complete Fellaini in the sense that he can play the similar role, but execute it in a much more lethal manner. So, I mean, you got to trust Statman Dave's word there. Let's go into one more comment before we move on. Let's see here. Talking about Vidal. No, let's talk about Sergei Milinkovic-Savic. Ayman Athani says SMS is not coming, nor do we need him. I mean, I personally agree in that I don't think he's gonna come. I don't see it happening in the sense that Manchester United moving for a big name target like that. I mean, we've been linked with every single person in the world of FIFA every season, and yet we always sort of end up with the subtle, a little quieter, less noisy signing. So I personally don't think it's gonna happen. But anyways, let's move on. Let's chat about the next name. Ivan Perisic, tomorrow's back page from the Daily Star. Mo Misery. And it says that United boss hit by new Perisic snub. Like, how many times have we been linked with Ivan Perisic? I mean, this is the actual Schneider in the works for Manchester United, because I think we've just been constantly being linked with him. I'm just going to read you a little bit of here, written by Jeremy Cross. Jose Mourinho is unhappy with Manchester United's lack of movement in the summer window and reckons he needs two more top signings, Croatia and Perisic in England, blah, blah, blah. And he has turned his back on a move from Inter Milan to Old Trafford. It's just like, we don't need to read up on it because we're constantly feeding into this nonsense and we're constantly feeding into this bias. But if there's one thing that we can get out of this is that Jose Mourinho actually is upset. I mean, you guys can... It doesn't take a genius to know what Jose Mourinho's been up to so far in the preseason. He's been coming out and he sounds somewhat miserable. And it sucks to see it because it's really killing the sort of vibe and the mood in the squad. I mean, a lot of hype's been generated in the past few seasons or so. But Jose Mourinho, I personally think he's doing this for the sake of really pushing the board and Manchester United, the execs, as well as Ed Woodward in particular, to say, look, we need signings. We're lacking players. We're lacking movement in the transfer window. And somebody like Ivan Perisic, who we wanted to sign last season, but didn't really have the extra oomph to cough up the cash, now he's risen in value because of the World Cup, and it's even harder to sign him. And Jose Mourinho mentioned something like this during the World Cup when he was doing the coverage for RT. He was saying, we wanted Ivan Perisic. We don't know why he didn't come, but he's probably more expensive now. And I personally think Ivan Perisic wouldn't have minded coming to Manchester United, but I have a feeling it was definitely down to cost issues and things like that. I personally don't see him coming. I don't think Manchester United are going to be willing to cough up more than ever before to sign somebody like Perisic, especially when they weren't going to sign him for $55 million or things like that. Why would they want to sign him for $75 million? It just doesn't make sense for somebody of Perisic and his age and things like that. But anyways, let's go into the comment section. Anybody talking about Ivan Perisic? The Apocalypse actually says something very important. He says, we need a character in the team. You know what? I completely agree with you. I think we're missing the Zlatan factor yet again. But you have to keep in mind, we have great leaders in the works. I mean, they might not be the complete Roy Keane, but they're definitely certainly on the road or found themselves on the road to becoming the next Roy Keane, if I may say so, because you saw in the World Cup the amount of leadership skills and the character that they sort of exuded upon the Belgium and French squad. And Romelu Lukaku and Paul Pogba, obviously. Those two are fantastic leaders in the squad. If you guys haven't seen that video clips of them just being the motivated leaders for their squad, I mean, that was fantastic to see, and it was so awesome to see something like that. But Ivan Perisic, to try and sort of connect the dots here, Ivan Perisic really isn't the kind of player that's going to be the Ibrahimovic or the Roy Keane or the kind of person that's going to be out there, swagging and finessing and, showing and breathing arrogance. That's not the kind of player Ivan Perisic is. But he is definitely a left winger, and he is a winger that's going to definitely provide to us the width that we've been sort of lacking, if you may. I mean, we've honestly been playing very, very central and down the middle as opposed to stretching the game as wide as possible. And that's due to the fact that we don't have natural wingers. And the only two natural wingers that we have are playing left back and right back. So, let's get into one or two more comments here. Let's see. Nobody talking about Perisic here. Come on. Somebody talking to Perisic? Oh, I am David Moore Music says, Perisic not needed. We have plenty of players who can play in that spot who are younger. You know what? I completely agree. I think right now we probably don't need somebody like Perisic. If anything, we need to make signing and we need to make defensive we need to make signings at the back. Simple as. I mean, we don't need offensive signings. Of course, if a fantastic option comes out, then why not? But all in all, right now, we just don't need somebody like Perisic. We have Jesse Lingard, who had an excellent World Cup. We have Lukaku, who had a decent World Cup. We have Alexis Sanchez, who had a full preseason, a full season's rest, and is ready to fire up. We also have Rashford, who's been fantastic, and we're looking like we're going to keep Martial. So we don't need somebody like Perisic at all. And that was a horrible segue, but we are definitely going to talk about Anthony Martial next, and I'm just going to pull that up for me so that I can kind of read what's going on here. Anthony Martial is leaving tour, as BBC News reports that they have. Anthony Martial has received permission from Jose Mourinho to fly back to United, where he will witness the birth of his second child. Now, there isn't really much to say, but of course, tabloids are always going to be trying to get clicks, and Anthony Martial was one of the biggest names that was being dropped in the Manchester United summer transfer window. Of course, everybody thought that he was destined to leave and that Jose Mourinho was ready to sell him and all this jazz. And of course, Martial's name is going to be one of the names to report so that they can add that Manchester United hashtag and get them clicks going. But, nothing more to it. Anthony Martial given permission by Jose Mourinho to go see his baby mama drop down another second baby. So not really much to say here. Let's see if anybody else is talking about Martial. A. Lang says, don't jinx Martial, John. You know what? I am not jinxing him in any way possible. I'm just producer Chris telling me to talk about him, so I'm going to talk about him. As much as I love to see Anthony Martial stay for the preseason and get into the squad and try to integrate himself as much as possible, he's got to see his baby. He's got to see his baby. That's a big moment And I mean, who am I to talk? I don't have a baby yet, but I'm sure that's a fantastic moment to be witnessing. So he's probably received permission from Jose Mourinho. And if there's something that we can take out of that, maybe it's a bit of a boost in the bonds that's sort of fragile between Jose Mourinho and Anthony Martial. So if there's anything we can take from that article, we can probably think Jose Mourinho and Anthony Martial's bond could have been a little bit sort of strengthened, if you will. Let's see, anybody else talking about Anthony Martial? Matt Powell says, hope we can give Martial what he wants to a certain degree. OTB says Martial is off. It's the only reason he is smiling. There's so much divided opinion about Anthony Martial. I'm just going to talk about it really quickly before we talk about our last topic. Anthony Martial has always driven both sides of the conversation for every single Manchester United fan. Of course, you guys know Adam. Our guy Adam is an avid Anthony Martial fan, and there's people who sort of leave comments saying Anthony Martial should leave, Anthony Martial this and that. You know, it's really driven a lot of debate. But one thing's for certain: Anthony Martial does have the quality and does sort of have the potential to make it. It's about his attitude, and it's about his development, and it's also about Jose Mourinho. There's two sides to this. There's no way it's just going to be either Anthony Martial or Jose Mourinho. I think fans need to realize that and understand that it's got to be a buildup of the relationship for them to be able to thrive together. You can't have one person being blamed and not the other, you know. And I think Anthony Martial needs to realize that, and Jose Mourinho is the same. I think we need to work together here. Let's see, anybody else saying anything else? Atik Mustafa says, you can't make babies with those thick legs. I mean, hey, who knows? I mean, if you got thick legs. Well, I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that. Let's talk about the last person on our agenda, Harry Maguire. Now, Bleacher Report are reporting that Harry Maguire is reportedly confident he will be a Manchester United player in time to face current club Leicester City. United left the Foxes know they're keen to acquire the England international, who can cost as much as £65 million. Now, that is a hefty figure for somebody like Harry Maguire, and to be honest, we've been linked with so many names this season. And when it came to defenders, we've been linked with Sandro, we've been linked with Bonucci, Alderweireld. We've just been linked with everybody. But Harry Maguire seems like a signing that makes sense to me. I think he's probably one of those signings that would fit a Manchester United characteristic. Of course, I personally would prefer somebody like Varane or Bonucci or players like that, but it's just not going to happen. And I think Adam put it really, really well in one of the TTT episodes, where he was just like, you can't expect clubs like Real Madrid to be actually selling Ramos, Varane, Bale, Cruz. You know, we're being linked with all these names. You know, like it says Real Madrid keen to sell Cruz, Real Madrid keen to sell Varane. We're not going to be making signings like that. It just does not make sense for both parties involved. And we as fans need to be sort of aware and understand that we might be just being used for clicks in that respect. And it just doesn't make sense. I personally don't really fancy Maguire, if I'm completely honest, but I feel like that's probably one of the signings that's going to fit the current Manchester United transfer patterns, in the sense that we haven't signed a super name like that defensively. So maybe Harry Maguire is probably on his way to Manchester United. I personally I never wanted to see the names Valencia, Young, Smalling, and Jones ever again, but it doesn't look like any of them are going to be sold this season. I mean, Valencia, you've seen, is being awarded the captaincy position, and Ashley Young has had a decent World Cup, so doesn't look like that's happening anytime at all. But if Harry Maguire comes, why not? I think he'll be a great defensive asset. Although I don't fancy him as much, he'll be a definitely great asset. Let's see if we have a minute here, so let's see if anybody's going to talk to me about Harry Maguire. Alphabet Duck says we should have gotten Maguire when he was at Hull. I mean, maybe. I don't really recall his performances that well at Hull, but he definitely did a number on us when he was playing for Leicester. So, Shareth Billy Geary says Maguire is not better than Smalling. You know what? We'll see. I personally like Chris Smalling more than Phil Jones, although I don't really fancy neither of them. But Harry Maguire definitely had a much more impactful season for Leicester, as well as for England at the World Cup. So, I mean, he's probably the hot name. Nobody's going to be talking about transferring is Chris Smalling. Everybody's definitely going to be talking about Harry Maguire. One more quick comment. Maguire sounds like a panic buy. Better to sign Toby than Maguire. Yeah, I mean, Manchester United we're going to be linked with names all throughout the transfer window. We just need to be patient, and we need to figure out what's going to happen going forward. And hopefully, Manchester United add signings. That's about it for me. Thank you guys so much for joining. You guys can check us out, obviously, every day until the transfer season closes. 11 p.m. BST. Transfers tomorrow. Tomorrow's transfer today. I'm never going to get that right. Producer Chris, I'm so sorry, but I'm never